the kind of attitudes I have about the matter.
Yeah,
You might just
no,
agree that I
like
have those attitudes.
I'm looking to see whether or not these attitudes you have towards abortion and the thing and the like motivating factors towards these attitudes. I'm looking to see whether or not it's consistent. You'd hold these same values towards other aspects of your life.
Oh, so you want to debate on whether my view is like logically consistent?
Not specifically logically, just logically consistent. Because of course you can like bite every single bullet that like I give you, but it's logically consistent, and the fact that it remains intuitive. So like if I give you a hypothetical where your
Intuitive
view,
to who?
well, just like intuitive. I mean,
Intuitive to who?
just like people generally, we can appeal to certain like somebody. It doesn't really matter. But it's like if I point out a flaw in your view, and that flaw seems to entail you agreeing to like let's say child molestation, and then you're just like, oh yeah, no, 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 I agree to that. No, that's fine. My view entails that you still remain consistent. However, that's just clearly
Oh,
your view.
I don't even care if it's like, because like there's certain things I believe morally that are unintuitive to most people. But I think there's just like a kind of reason, like, so I just don't think most people think about morality very carefully. And a lot of people are kind of, a lot of people kind of get biased by a lot of cultural things and like squeamish feelings about things that are like culturally
Yeah.
shunned upon, etc.
So, like for example, you think that your view can be completely fine, completely sound, completely rational, where it, like let's say in the case it like agrees with child rape, for example, you'd be like, oh yeah, to all of the people who say, ew, that's wrong, your view's really bad, you'd be like, oh no, 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 the only reason you guys think this is specifically because of cultural reasons. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, so my thought is like I already believe that there's a lot of moral views I have that a lot of people might find, unintuitive, or they might have negative affective reactions towards.
Does it
Um,
include
but I think
people?
but I think there's reasons why they have those reactions. It's often because of these sort of cultural prejudices and
Yeah.
such.
So do you think that, like, for example, people in this community or in your community, where you think that they're like at least extremely or decently smart, right? Do you think they'd still hold these like intuitive biases or intuitive or like let's say reactions which don't seem to be very rational? So, like for example, in the scenario, in the case you gave me, where it's like their views are like misconstrued or affected by their culture. Do you think people who are so considered to be really good in your community would also be affected as heavily by these biases?
I don't know exactly what counts as my community, but I think people who I might judge to be like competent people, I don't think they would be biased in those sorts of ways.
I mean, yeah, so we can just like talk about, and if your view seems to entail that, or like we can just ask the people who you consider to be smart, and like whether or not like the view, or whether or not what your view entails actually is absurd. We can like just ask the people who you think consider to be smart
Um,
about that, and then
okay, but
we
like I mean, that's just like the people who I'm talking about pretty much all agree with my view,
they can
like
agree with your
completely. So
view, but
that's already not gonna,
I mean, they can agree with your view, but also just like agree with the fact that the way you argue your view seems to leave certain entailments in which, like, for example, your view
like
leads to very, very like, absurd stuff.
they agree with like, I mean, like our moral views are essentially the same. There's nothing that will have
Wait, so
different values
so
on
you think
probably.
okay, so you think that like yeah, you guys can value the same thing, and then when I press both of or when I like, argue with both of you about the same things that you value, one of you is going to give a different response or they'll give a different reason why you value this thing compared to the
Yeah,
other.
no, I'm just saying like like look, so generally for the at least that for the scenarios that become relevant to these topics or that people tend to bring up, like we just tend to have roughly the same judgments on them. So it's like,
Roughly the same
I mean,
judgments
there
and the
might be
same
slight
reasoning.
areas of discordance, but I don't know.
We're on the same reasoning.
Um, it depends what you mean by the. I mean, I would say generally we have the same reasons.
I mean, it depends who these people are. Do you not think, like, for example, who is considered really good in your community? Senta, Eric, who else is
I
there?
don't
Is
really want to
Lisa?
comment on this because like, it'll just lead to like, it'll just be controversial and then it'll lead to a bunch of problems for me. So
Okay, so he doesn't think some of these people are competent. That's fine. Uh, that's cool.
no, I just said I don't. So I don't want to. I don't like commenting on who's good and who's whatever because that just never goes well. Like people
But
get upset about
you just
things.
did. You were like, yeah, no, I don't think you're very good. Uh, I don't know. I don't know why. Okay, so aside from the fact that I got like instantly muted, oh my goodness. But what's it called? You think that I mean, what was I talking about before I got muted? You think that like your friends also hold the exact same methods of justifying their own moral views than you do?
Yeah, like we have very similar um, moral views and how and reasons for supporting the views and whatnot.
I
There
mean,
might be slight differences. I'm sure there will be differences, but it's like generally similar.
yeah, that's my entire just like outlook on this. That if there are differences, at least, then I think I'm able to point out why those differences, right, at least under your view, lead to like absurd conclusions, right? And then even though you guys do have generally like alike views on morality, the fact that these differences may lead to like absurd conclusions for either side, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you just want to say like it's possible that there's this like thing that we might have different judgments on,
Yeah,
whatever. But
no,
like,
it's not
there's
that it's
also
possible, is what I'm arguing. I'm just saying that like also called I think I can give you an outlook or give you like certain things where under your view it seem absurd and probably under the other view it doesn't seem absurd as well. So for example, you say you don't really assign any form of moral value onto like potentiality, right?
no. Well, I'm not. I'm not. I don't think I understood what you meant by that. But
Oh, okay. So this thing has a high probability of like being the case if like left in the right environment and all of that. That's for like
so
certain
you're
mhm.
saying like a given like fertilized egg has like a high chance of like becoming like a grown baby or something? Is that the idea?
It has a high chance of being like once put in the right like environment to become a grown baby. In the same way how we value the potential for a baby to become a grown like human, and
Wait,
we
isn't
wait chill.
it
So
depends what you mean by because like I think the general likelihood of if a given fertilized egg, the general likelihood of it becoming surviving pregnancy is like I think it's on the lower side. It's below 50%. I
wait, you
think.
think most babies you think most babies at least in the Western world, which is what I'm commenting on, you think most of the babies there have a low or below 50% probability of becoming a actual baby?
I don't know where the data was collected, but all the studies I've seen show
Let me see
that
if I can find something.
either there's like slightly so all the studies I've shown show that the figures around 50 so around 50% of fertilized eggs don't survive gestation. I don't know if the data is only for like Western countries or where they collected the data, but
If
so I'd have to
it's
read the studies again.
two-thirds of only 30 to 50 two-thirds fail to develop successfully. This is fertilization. This is generally. Let me see if I can find something more like in America, because that's what I'm talking about. Mm,
Oh, so you're saying you're not talking about like you're just talking about like in America or something?
I mean, because generally it's like in other situations, if in the other parts of the world where because their living conditions are so poor, even if the fertilized egg actually like exists and comes into like the world, or even if it exists, the probability of it actually becoming a baby is so low because the environment is just very poor. I don't know if there's any like actual examples of once given the right environment, this thing actually fails or has a low probability of actualizing itself.
Um, okay, so let me look at where they collected the data then.
Yeah.
Getting slammed, Mason getting slammed.
Oh wow.
Um, also, also it might the data might not even be relevant because you're talking about like being in a specific environment. So,
Yeah, the
um,
environment just has to be like a healthy, what's it called? For it has enough nutrients to continue its development, etc. etc. I mean, that's why I brought up the like
see,
baby in the woods example, where it's like we feel the need, and this baby on its own doesn't have a high probability of surviving in the wild, right? But so we feel the need, and we feel we're morally obligated to put this baby in this specific situation in which, or this specific environment in which it is able to become self-sufficient.
Yeah, if you're just so if you're just talking about a kind of like yeah, so I think I understand what you mean by generally healthy environment, um but I don't know like what the data would be for how many of those fertilized eggs survive gestation. I don't know if there's studies on that, but yeah.
I mean, under the like what's it called? Under the assumption that these things do have like high probability of actualizing a conscious experience once left in a proper environment, you'd agree that you then provide them more or you give them more value, right?
Like if a given fertilized egg had like a high likelihood
Of
of
developing into like an actual baby.
uh I don't I'm not sure, like I mean so this might get kind of technical, but like maybe like I'm sure I'm sure I value it like I might I'm sure I might value those sorts of things in a way I value things kind of trivially, but I don't think I don't think I value it to say like abortion is wrong or anything.
I mean, most
Like I might
people
value
would.
it the same way I value like tables and stuff, but
I mean,
I don't know if that's what you were
not
asking for.
really. Most people like generally assign more value to things which have a high probability of actualizing and gaining this thing that we value. So the example here would just be a job, right? You value your job specifically because there's a high probability of you gaining money if all goes well. Or even in a
I
classroom, for
don't know how
example,
you
right? We
I
value
don't
like
even know
what's
how you quantify that. Like
most
the
you.
claim there was like most people generally value things that have a high probability of
I
like
mean,
yeah. There's like so many empirical like there's so many ways you'd have to like specify
but
what exactly the
do you
proposition
not
is
think
to
it's
collect
like
data on
kind
it.
of
I don't even know how
obvious?
you'd even get data for that.
Do you not think it's kind of obvious that if there was a 99% chance that this job was you were going to be accepted in this job and this job was going to give you loads of money, right? People would like give more value onto like this opportunity that they have.
Um,
So you'd be wrong for like ripping out the
it
leaflet.
depends. Like somebody,
Hmm?
'cause, like somebody, there could be a 99% chance that somebody could get this job, and the job might yield a lot. But there could also be like a higher chance that they get some other job that might make them more money.
I mean, yes, there's a. I mean, to their knowledge at least, right? There's just this job which gives them, which has a high like likelihood of giving them loads of money. Hence, why at least to their knowledge, they'd say, "Oh yeah, I give this thing like more value," and I'd say you'd be wrong for you to like rip up this leaflet that I have, right? Specifically because of the
Yeah.
fact that there's this thing that we value and we have a high probability of getting it. I can give you another example if you want,
Yeah, no,
so that we don't
no, I think most people would have that judgment, but my issue is the original proposition was something like, okay, people, or at least the original thing you said, it was like most people tend to value things that,
have a high
sorry, what was it? Like, is
probability.
it
Most people tend to value things that have a high probability of like actualizing this thing that we value. So most people tend to
a
like
high probability,
mhm.
okay, so most people value, care about things that have a high likelihood of bringing about things you also care about.
Yeah. So like again, what's it called? The thing that we value in a job is most likely money. So again, if it has a high like likelihood of bringing about money, right, then that would lead to us like giving value to the job. So you'd obviously say you would feel wrong if your manager fired you for no reason, because then you lose the
I
opportunity to
think you
get
want to
money.
add something else. I think you want to say like, I think you want, because like you probably want to add something like, it has a high likelihood of bringing about something you care about, and it also doesn't bring about things that you have desires against or whatnot. Because like something could bring about a lot of something you care about,
Hmm.
but it could also cause like a lot of suffering as well.
I mean, yeah, it can bring about a lot of things that you care about, and also bring a lot of suffering in that scenario. But then again, I think most of the time, if people actually choose to like say, "Oh yeah, I want to have this thing or not," they'd have to weigh up what's it called, the benefits they get from getting this thing to like against what the downsides that they get from like, or the downsides they get from losing this thing, or the downsides they get from this thing actualizing itself. I think like in some scenarios, I think that both options are immoral, because all I consider moral to like something to be moral would just be it preserves, or a moral action at least, it's just it preserves every single thing that we value. So in the scenario in which we lose this job, by losing this job we end up saving five people, right? I'd still say if this job it gives me immense or gives me like benefit and it gives me loads of money, right? Losing the job would be wrong, but it would just be less wrong than like than losing these five people, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is like, so if all the point was supposed to be is like people generally care about things that will bring about a lot of what they care about. Um, if that's like if that's sort of saying like, okay, well they might care about those things, but perhaps they might also care about other things
Yeah, they care
like
about
yeah.
like.
But if you're saying like they care about those things sort of in a pro toto way, I would probably not agree that that's true.
So you don't wait. Repeat what you said, just so I didn't misunderstand.
Yeah, if the idea is like, okay, well, most people care about things, all things considered, that will bring about a lot of things that they care about. I don't think that's right because you could bring there are many scenarios where things can bring about things you'll care about, but bring about a lot of things that are undesirable
Yeah, and
as well.
they're undesirable to the person, right? So again, the reason why most people would say that, yeah, if I care about the money a lot and I want to get loads of money, but then the way I get loads of money is by signing up to the cartel and then killing innocent people, right? Of course, the thing that we care about is both the money and the lives of other people. People generally seem to value the lives of other people here. So I'd say that yes, like what's it called in that scenario, see, we value people more than we value money. So again, we tend to like weigh our moral judgments on what's it called, what preserves the most of the thing that we care about. But that doesn't really speak to whether or not it's a moral action or not, if you get what I mean.
No, the thought was that if what you're trying to say is that that's the like if so what if what it amounts to like if what caring about something amounts to is like that's like the preferable outcome.
Yeah,
Well,
what preserves most of our
that's one
things.
semantic interpretation you might give.
Yeah,
I
so
don't think that's right, but you could be meaning something different.
I mean, so what I mean by when you say someone prefers something is this thing preserves most of what we value. So I prefer apples over oranges because it preserves and it like actually boosts this thing that I value, which would be pleasure. And it gives like eating oranges gives me more pleasure than eating apples does. So in the scenario of like the job thing, right? Earning money gives me pleasure, of course, but it gives me way less pleasure than, or it gives me like, or the pleasure is taken away from when I know the fact that like people had to die for me to get this money. So people dying would also be something that I don't value or I would say is immoral because I value the lives of other humans.
To be honest, I'm not. I don't think I'm sure. Like if your main point around everything doesn't turn on this, then like because I'm not sure what you mean by preserves most of what you value, and perhaps I might have to go through a long semantic train to figure out exactly what's being said. But like if what the main thing you're trying to say doesn't turn on this, you can like you don't have to you don't have to keep explaining this.
The main thing I'm trying to say is just the fact that like what's it called? By preserve all that we value is just like how do I explain this? I don't know how I can word this properly. It's like um this thing is able to like or how do I explain this without using Aristotelian like words? It's like the way I explain it usually because I'm familiar with using like what's it called? Just actualize and potential just be the thing that we value remains like actualized by virtue of it of allowing it to continue existing. So in the fetus example is we value its potential, right? Clearly aborting the fetus is like or clearly aborting the fetus is inhibiting it from having this potential, right? So of course, like we wouldn't value it, or of course we'd say that's immoral. So that's all I'm trying to get at when I say that.
No, I'm trying to decipher. So I'm trying to decipher what you said when you said like most people care about things that will like also bring about a lot of things they care about. I'm saying like that's a bit unclear when you're saying that,
Most people
but
wait. Repeat what you think is unclear.
I thought what you were saying was that most people care about things that will also bring about a lot of things they care about.
Yeah, most people care
And I
more
was
about
saying,
things. Yeah, most people care more about things that would bring about like more things that they care about. But I think that in certain scenarios,
but
most
when you say most people care about them,
what do you say?
there's so are you just saying like those are sort of things? Are you talking about like in a pro tanto sense and in pro toto sense? Like what do you mean?
I just mean like when I say most people care about them, it's just like most people have these certain preferences towards these certain things, right? And then what's it called? These preferences are fulfilled by virtue of these things actualizing themselves.
Wait, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're just saying somebody might like have favorable attitudes towards such items, I might agree. But if you mean that like their preference in those cases, their preferences would be fulfilled if you allow those outcomes to occur. I don't think that's true anymore because then because it could be the case, like I said earlier, that there's an action you perform that brings about a lot of things you care about, but it brings about even more things that are undesirable.
Don't you think that
So
like what's it
that's
called? The undesirable things there, like almost it called people wait, did you say people can prefer things while also it's actualizing things that would be undesirable?
yeah. Somebody, no, I'm saying somebody can. There can be actions that will bring about things that people care about or tend to value, but they
Hmm.
also bring about even more things that people don't value
So
or
wouldn't you just say that
people.
like these certain actions we would deem it as like or people would no longer have any form of preference towards this action anymore, or would say that this action would be wrong specifically because of the fact that like what's it called, it actualizes loads
But
of things which would also be undesirable to them. So that
but
I
that just depends on the expected utility of the action. But here's the point I'm making is that so look, the original thesis you're forwarding, I'm saying there's two interpretations.
mm-hmm,
If one interpretation is okay, well, people might have value for things that bring about bring about a lot of things they care about, even if that value is like in a pro tanto sense. I agree with that. But if to say another interpretation is that okay, well, most people prefer to do things that will bring about a lot of things they care about, and I think that interpretation is not clearly true
hey,
because
actually
merely
I can
a
reword it
description of
then.
the
Mm-hmm.
situation.
I can
Wait one
reword it
second. A
then.
description of
Mm-hmm. Go ahead,
wait
actually.
one second. Wait one second. A description of because a description of a situation where um, forming an action that brings about a lot of things you care about, that underdetermines whether in that situation it also brings about things that are undesirable.
I mean, I can reword it there. I can reword like what's it called? What I mean by refer. It's just like most people would prefer to like do. Most people would prefer actions to occur, right? If these things like what's it called preserved all things in which that they give more value to, right? So it'd be like I'd
It,
prefer. I mean, I how do I explain this? It'd be like I
but that just
prefer.
seems trivial. That just seems like you're saying most people prefer what they would prefer. That just
Most
seems
people would
rather trivial.
prefer, yeah, most people would prefer what like allows them to like keep having this thing that they value. I think this is something that's trivially true.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's like that might almost be like a tautology. Well, actually, no. It's actually I don't think so because when you say most people would prefer what allows them to keep interacting or what preserves what they value.
Yeah, what
That
preserves all of
description
what they value,
also
yes.
remember that description also underdetermines whether um, performing such actions brings about a lot of things they don't value or they find undesirable as well.
Wait, what do you mean
So here's
wait, what do you mean when you say like underdetermines that?
Yeah, so all I'm saying is that this description you've given is compatible with these possibilities. That's what I mean when I say like
Yeah, don't you think
underdetermines
that
these
like in
possibilities.
that type of scenario, if what I'm trying to say is that they it preserves all of the things in which they value. If going to work, for example, is something gaining money is something that I value, and I also value the lives of other people, right? Me going to work and it
Okay.
ending up where and it ending up in like the deaths of all of the other people, right?
No, I
That
see what you're
wouldn't be
saying now.
something you'd
Yeah. So
prefer.
yeah, by all, it seems like when you say all, okay, so I think I get what you're saying now. But then that's like, I mean, that just seems rather tautologist. You're just saying like, well, most people prefer what At least you seem to be saying like what most people prefer what they prefer somewhat. And I'm like, well, I agree with that, I guess. But
Right. Yeah,
it's like rather
most
trivial.
people prefer I mean, I don't think it would really be like trivially true in the way you're trying to phrase it. I think it just means most people prefer what allows them to keep or what allows them to keep how to explain it.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep
you're just
things in
saying
which
that
like which
You're
they
just saying
value.
if there's some situation that would bring about everything somebody cares about and nothing that they don't care about, and it's the situation that would satisfy all their preferences, then they would prefer that situation. That's essentially like a tautology.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with I don't really think it's too relevant. Wait, give me a second.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is related to whatever main point you want to make. I'm just saying that this is
Yeah.
rather like tautology is what you're saying.
I'm just trying to establish that like okay, if we agree that this is what people would give preference to, and we agree that this is like how people value things generally, which is just with that which preserves all that they value. What's it called? Give me a second.
Yeah, people prefer the actions that maximally satisfy their preferences. Yeah, like I mean that's rather. Yeah, I agree. Unless you think you're saying some like because I don't want to like strawman you or anything. If you think you're saying something that isn't like trivial, you can tell me. It just seems kind of rather trivial to me.
No, sorry, I was texting somebody in DMs. Repeat what you said.
Yeah, so I'm saying if you think that you're saying something that isn't like trivially true, you can like try to recapitulate it. Like to me, it just sounds like what you're saying is rather like almost trivially true.
I mean, it's fine with it being like what's it called? It's fine with it being like trivially true. That I don't think that's too relevant. All I'm trying to establish here is that if this is the way that we like if this is the way in which we judge things to be moral or immoral, which is like whether or not it preserves everything that we value, do you think that if we value potential here throughout all of the examples I've given you, then anything that removes or like doesn't allow us to maintain or like keep this potential would be something that we deem as immoral?
Um. Okay. So your question was if somebody valued like the potential of a fertilized egg. Sorry, what was the rest of the question?
Yeah, if someone values the potential for the like or the potential for the fertilizer egg to like turn into a person, right? Then wouldn't abortion be immoral under that view? Because then we value that potential, and abortion is just going to be stopping us or inhibiting us from actually
Yeah, if you
continually having
well,
that
you have to
that
fix more. Like for example, if you fix that, they value that, and there's nothing else. There's like no overriding value. Yeah, that again seems like a tautology. If somebody has such attitudes where they value the relevant potential, and there's nothing that overrides that value, yeah, it seems rather tautologous again to say that for that person, abortion would be wrong.
Yeah, so do you like okay, that's what I'm trying to ask you if like we can agree that's what people would mean whenever they say it's like what is immoral or not. Do you just like unless it's the case that you just don't give any form of value onto potential, then you'd have
Wait,
to also just like agree that abortion would be immoral in this scenario.
wait a second. No, I agree with. I mean, I agree with the two statements that are like otherwise tautologies. I agree that people. I agree that people tend to prefer to do what will. People tend to prefer to do what will only bring about what they value and nothing, and
Yeah,
what will
so
and what they maximally value and
do
nothing that they
you
don't
do
value.
you
And
like
I agree that if somebody values a fetus's potential and nothing else overrides that, then
yeah,
for
so do
that
you
person,
just like
abortion
not
is wrong.
value
Those two
potential?
seem tautologous, but like,
Yeah, so do
what
you
else are
not
you saying?
value potential?
Are you asking? You're asking me? Do people value
No, do
potential?
you not value potential? Because if we can agree, like, unless you have any form of disagreement where you value things differently and you don't value things off of what allows you to preserve everything that you value, and you value things differently, then unless that's
Maybe
true,
let me investigate that question. You're saying when you ask if you're asking like to be clear, you're asking
do you place
do I like
more
care
value
about the
onto
fetus's
potential?
potential to like develop into
No,
something?
it doesn't. It doesn't have to be the fetus specifically. We can get onto the fetus later. Do you not like place more value onto to like any, or do you not place more value onto any type of potential?
I'm sure I value all sorts of types of potential.
Okay, so then it just comes down to what's it called? What do you think is like what's it called? What do you think is the distinguishing factor there between the potential for all of these other things that you value? What's the distinguishing factor between those instances and then the instance of like the fetus? Why do you think you don't like? What do you think you don't assign value to it?
I don't really know how I answer that because there's just a large amount, there's like a rather large set of cases where I value potentials. I'm not sure how I'm comparing
Yeah,
exactly.
so like okay, we can just use the example. We can like slim it down to one example. You'd agree that like what's it called? The reason why you go to work every day is because you value the potential for you getting money, right?
Um, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if that's fully accurate, but I think that's roughly true. I think, well,
Yeah.
the reason some people value work is because they care about some of the consequences there.
Okay. So then, do you like okay? So you assign more value to that in that situation. So do you what would be like true of or what would be like true of the case of where you do morally value it that isn't true of the case in which you don't value it or you don't assign more value to it that makes you like what's it called that distinguishes the two of them.
Okay, so the question is, okay, so like what's true about a case where um,
I mean, I've worded it
somebody
wrong.
cares about?
Yeah, it was like, what do you think it makes you care about it in one situation but not care about it in the other situation?
You cut out.
Okay, wait. Am I still cutting out? Hello?
No, not anymore.
Okay, so what do you think, like, what's it called? Why do you think you don't value it in one situation, but you do value it in the other situation?
Okay, so you're asking why, like, I care about consequences sometimes and not others? Or?
Yeah, why do you know, specifically, why do you not care about, like, what's it called, potential value that this thing may give you in some situations, but not others? Yeah.
Um, uh, okay, so by potential value, you just mean
It has the
like
potential to develop
certain.
something we
You're just talking about
value.
certain consequences,
Yeah,
like
so it,
future well-being or something.
yeah, for example, it just like gains conscious experience, like, which I hope you agree that you do value conscious experience.
Oh yeah, no, I see. Yeah, you're yeah. No, I'm sure I care about the fact that certain things could have like conscious experiences. Like for example, I might care that my stove could have a conscious experience rather
Yeah, but
minimally.
that would be
I
like, that
think.
would be disanalogous though, because very specifically, tried to establish to you, and we were working under the assumption because neither of us want to go and
Listen,
like.
I wasn't giving an
Okay,
analogy
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
anything.
my
How
bad,
could
my bad.
it?
But it wasn't like representative of like what I was trying to say because I mean we've already like assumed for at least for the sake of the discussion that like what's it called, these fetuses they have a least decently high like percent chance for like to actually gain a conscious experience, right? So whenever like you liken it to a fetus is or a stove, it's very very clear that your stove has a very very low negligible
Are you
chance
asking
that you will
me?
gain conscious experience.
Are you just sort of asking me like if there's a case where it's like if there's a case where you had a child or you had a fetus that had like a rather very high chance of gaining a conscious experience, are you asking if do I think abortion would be wrong in that case?
Do you think that abortion would be wrong in cases in which the fetus has a very high potential to like gain conscious experience? Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know, I just don't have I just don't have the preference that it's wrong. Like I don't know.
I mean, I
Like you're
think
asking for a causal explanation for why I have those
yeah.
attitudes.
I mean, you say you don't have this preference. I mean, I sure that can be what you mean by like you say this thing isn't wrong that you don't really like dislike it. But I'm asking like, is there any specific reason why you don't dislike it in this situation? However, if somebody like stole your job or your boss fired you in that other in like the situation of a job, why you would dislike it for them like inhibiting you from gaining from actualizing this potential?
You're asking. Okay, so you're asking. You're sorry. Your question is a bit weird. Are you asking why? So you're asking why I care
Why
about
do you
the
have
consequences in the
okay?
job case, but I
Mhm.
don't think abortion is wrong, or I don't
Well,
understand
yeah,
the
I'll
question.
put it like this scenario. Why do you have preferences to what? Why do you have preferences against people stopping you from actualizing your potential from getting money from your job? Why do you have preferences against that? But you don't have any preferences against someone like stopping a fetus with a high probability of gaining conscious experience from actually actualizing it.
Okay, are you asking for like a causal explanation as to why I have
I
those
mean, if that's
preferences?
what you think it is, then yeah, probably.
Like I mean, I could sort of give it. Like I think I was like raised a certain way. You know, like certain like you know. I mean, I maybe I have a certain evolutionary history. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's
maybe
but do you
I've had some set of social interactions. I've been exposed to some relevant stimuli, content, whatever. I'm sure
yeah,
those
but what
have
would
stuff to
be
do if I have the preference I have.
Yeah, but what would be like the relevant content here that makes you? I mean, because you're just saying is that like you've been exposed or you've been like exposed to this certain stimuli throughout like your entire life that would make you have this certain like mental disposition. But like,
Yeah,
is there
I thought
any?
you were
Mhm.
asking for like a causal explanation. I thought that's what you said.
Oh, repeat what you said.
Sorry, I thought you were asking me to give like a causal explanation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, these things can be the cause of your preference, but I'm saying like, what specific thing do you think caused you to have this preference? Because I agree, like all of them could
I
be
don't think there
factors.
is a
Hmm?
specific. I think there's a rather complicated kind of causal nexus that.
I mean, I think what's it called? Even if like the reason why you hold these beliefs is due to some form of like evolutionary factor or some form of like social reason. I just don't think it'd be very consistent with the other things that you value there, because then it just, at least this is how it seems to me, where it's just
Wait, are
like,
you saying there's a contradiction?
No, no, no. I'm not saying like this. I mean, I'm not going to like grandstand the fact that you're contradicting your own stance. I'm just saying that at least it seems to me that you value potential in this one case, and then you don't seem to value it in this other case, right? And then you think that there is some form of like relevant distinction there, but you just aren't actually able to like recite it to me properly.
Wait, I don't okay, so yeah, I value the potential to for me to earn a salary.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I don't think of abortion is wrong. And you're saying there's a relevant yeah, I'm sure there's a difference between those two scenarios. There's like many, perhaps even
Yeah.
infinitely many differences between
Of
those
course, like there's
scenarios.
trivially many differences in both of these
I'm not
scenarios,
sure
but
what.
yeah, of course, there's trivially many exact differences, but I'm talking about in the sense of potential. Do you think there's any like relevant, what's it called, relevant distinguishing factor there in terms of potential? Do you think there's any distinguishing factor there?
Um, okay, so here's what I think you're. Let me make sure I understand the question. So you're maybe you want to say phrase it this way. Um, you're saying I care. You're saying I care more about my potential money than I do about like uh,
Potential for
fertilized egg
purposes,
potentials or whatnot. You're
and then
asking
you're
like why
saying,
I care more about one than the
yeah,
other.
you're saying there's like this relevant, or you're saying that there's this relevant distinction that you know, and it's just like very very broad. But then if it's very
No, I'm
very
not. No, no, I'm not. I'm not sure I understand what. So to be clear, you're asking for something. You're asking for a relevant difference between my, me caring about my potential to earn money and me caring about a fertilized egg's potential to be conscious or something.
yeah, you don't like what's it called? Wait, give me a second. Give me a second.